What's up, Nitro Gang? This is a Traxxas Nitro Rustler, the longest running Nitro name in the RC hobby. This is a newer version, not the one running the Traxxas Pro 15 motor. You could still buy them brand new. I was flooded with comments saying, I love my Nitro Rustler, great RC, we need more videos on Nitro Rustler. Well, this one is for you guys. If you've been watching my channel for some time now, you might actually have seen this on my channel, but this was not the body that originally it came with. Let me show you the body that it originally came with. Well, there it is. Yep, it's a complete disaster. I know, it's shaved, it's weird. It actually used to have batteries here on top just for some, I guess, weight. I call this the X-Files of RC. So you know what? Why don't you watch this cool little X-Files clip I made, because I like the music from the X-Files show. Why not? This is, after all, the X-Files of RC. As of now, this thing is all in one piece, and yes, it does run. Watch this little clip here. We're not gonna go for a full test drive. I just want to verify that it does run.
Oh yeah. Idle is really high. I cannot get it to go any lower. Look at that. Super rich. Richer than Donald Trump, baby. Pinch test. Listen to this. Gonna pinch the fuel line. Gonna check our low speed. The low speed is perfectly tuned. I pinched the fuel line about 2 inches away from the fuel inlet. It ran for maybe about 4 to 5 seconds. I cannot get the idle to go any lower than that. More about the issue I'm having with the carb later on in this video towards the end.
I had to do so much on this off camera. I would have ran out of memory, you know, if I had to cover everything in here in depth. It does run. You just saw that in the video. It may look good, but listen, there's a lot here that still needs to be done. For instance, oh, the fuel tank. I don't think the fuel tank is supposed to be doing this. You know, what do you think? Yeah, it's not supposed to be doing this, but it does hold a vacuum, surprisingly, believe it or not, so I'm just gonna run it. I'm gonna eventually have to hot glue this. There's a reason why the fuel tank is all fidgety like this. So this motor is the 3.3. Originally, clearly, this was not the original motor, yeah, because they do not make a 3.3 Nitro Rustler. You could only get the 2.5 in this thing, and it'll still hit 50 miles per hour with a 2.5. So the Nitro Rustler is actually a very good speed platform. the wrist pin on the piston was facing the incorrect direction. So I'm going to show you a couple pictures here. You can clearly see on the exploded parts view that the wrist pin is facing away from the exhaust port. On my engine, the wrist pin in the back that inserts into the piston is facing the exhaust port. It should not be directly on the exhaust port. I'm managing to get it out slowly. So far I'm using an antenna tube. You know, you never throw away your old trash. You never know when you're gonna have to use it like this. This is actually more effective than a zip tie. I struggled with this for a little while, but yeah, it's coming out here. Still pretty tight in there. Could use a little more heat, but it'll come out. Not gonna let the sleeve beat me. There we go. And then line the sleeve back up to its notch, as it should be right here. And boom, guys. We got ourselves an engine. Wow. The pinch is like insane now. Before, the weirdness never really ends with this one. Notice the upper deck. It's not supposed to be a black color. It's supposed to be a gray color in this model. Well, the previous owner, for some reason, painted it. And now it's all weird and jagged. It's just kind of funny looking. And it made the fuel tank rubber seal harden up. Pretty much I had to rip this all out of here. It's just so weird. I don't know why they would do that. The next most annoying thing, look at the front suspension. Tell me this does not look weird. It is too damn high. The Nitro Rustler should not have such a tall front suspension. It needs to be more level, sort of like this wheel as I'm pushing up on the A-arm. So what happens is, I'm going to give you a word of advice. Do not buy shocks that you have not measured to be exactly the same length as the original length of the shock. So these are like these Chinese big bore aluminum shocks. They don't even have any oil in them because they are super springy, bouncy, no oil at all. You know, I'm not going to add any oil. It is my opinion that it probably all leaked out because I could see a whole bunch of oil on the A-arms. The entire A-arm is more or less saturated with oil. So I'm not even going to waste my money in shock oil and put more oil in the front. I'm not going to do it, guys. I have since sourced, well, also kind of terrible shocks, but these are better. More proper length. Look at the rear suspension on this. I have put in properly dampened shocks. At this point, you could tell the rear shocks are more or less adequate. And yet the front, what the hell is that? The back is a little over dampened. You know, once again, I personally like to go with stock Traxxas shocks because you just cannot tune these that well. They suck. It's just a matter of fact. They look good. They're adjustable threaded bodies, but the shocks freaking suck, guys. You know, you're gonna wind up with, I'm using like 25 weight shock oil in here. And look how stiff it is. It is just, I don't have any, you know, thinner oil in this. This is just the reality. The front, total disaster. Here's the shock that was originally on this Nitro Rustler. I'm gonna line it up with the one that I replaced it with. Look at the length of the shock itself. It is, I would say, about 3/4 to an inch longer than the shock needs to be. So you had this insane suspension travel in the back, which really made the ride height terrible. What I'm saying is make sure when you're getting shock upgrades, try to get the exact same length of shock. Or else, you're gonna have a funny looking car, your ride height's gonna be all crooked, and you probably will have a hard time mounting the shocks because they're gonna be hitting all of your suspension components, which in this case, I had before. This is everything that came out of this Nitro Rustler. The original servo, it was trash, doesn't work. TQI receiver, bad signal, a bunch of weird zip ties over here, screws that are just, you know, stripped, you don't need them. All this trash came out of this one RC. So don't think, you know, you can just replace a couple parts, boom, you've restored yourself an old Nitro RC. What about the electronics, you might ask? I had to replace the steering servo. This is just like an old school Tower Pro steering servo, pretty good. I use them all around. Throttle servo is pretty adequate. We're gonna keep using this old servo, no big deal. I did have to install a whole bunch of parts onto the motor. Take a look at this picture. The seller did give me everything to put on the motor. The only things I had to buy were just a couple bearings, and I wound up using bearings in the front wheels and to put onto the clutch belt here. Otherwise, this thing is a runner, guys. The chassis is clean. Look at that. Well, look how clean it is. It's painted. That's right, somebody painted a perfectly good looking aluminum blue chassis black. Now, one of the weirdest things, when I took out the original receiver batteries, I did a voltmeter test. Take a look at this clip. Let me show you something I just found. This is an original battery I took out of the Nitro Rustler. Look at the voltage. Look at the voltmeter right here. I'm going to test the voltage. It's basically negative. I have never seen a negative battery voltage. I don't know if this is like the black hole of batteries, but yeah, this thing came out of the Nitro Rustler. I don't expect electronics to be good in there, you know? This is a normal battery. The one on the left, 1.5 volts. This is exactly about where the voltage should be. I don't know how this battery is generating minus 0.3 volts. Negative voltage. Anybody ever seen this? This is like the hell of batteries. You know, this is literally taking the life out of our Nitro Rustler. But the funny electrical issues did not end there. So I have some liquid electrical tape here. That is because the wires, the actual power switch wires, were completely frayed and exposed. I had to use this very good item. I'm going to put a link for this in the description to this video. Get it on Amazon, guys. You could use it on any wires. It creates a very good waterproof seal. Eliminates the need for you to solder anything on to replace the wire. This was so frayed, it was unusable. Another weird thing I noticed about the way that this engine mounts. Now this is a 3.3. Yes, that is true. It was not designed to run a 3.3, but it doesn't matter. It's the same exact mounting specs, the same system. Look how close the spur gear comes to the filter. Oh my God. This is really, really close. And I have done my best to bend the filter in such a way that it does not contact it. You notice if I bend it down, we're going to have contact. It's going to make a hole in this filter body. We don't want that to happen. Another weird thing, notice my idle set screw. It is outside of the car body. I have never seen an idle set screw outside of the car body. And yet, my idle gap in the carb is still fairly large. I cannot get this carb to have a lower idle gap. I don't know if there's some kind of malfunction with the screw. I've tried turning it in and it does adjust the barrel to make sure that it opens more. But if I manually move this throttle servo, right, with my hands, look at that. I cannot get a smaller idle gap. It is just so weird. Is it possible that something's wrong with this barrel or the idle set screw? I don't know. This thing ran. It ran pretty okay. But notice how tight this carb is. It's kind of on an angle, I would say a diagonal, to fit in this motor mount. Such a weird design. And no, this is the same exact carb as the 2.5. So don't think it's because I put something here that did not fit. When the carb is fully open, the slide carb mechanism would hit the side of the tank right over there. What I had to do to overcome that is trim a piece of this upper deck over here. I've never seen anyone having to do that, but now at least when this carb opens, you guys see that? It literally interferes with the upper deck. I've never seen that in my life, and I've ran Nitro Rustlers. I don't know if there's something unique about this, you know, X-Files of our C Nitro Rustler here, but man, there's some weirdness going on here. I want you guys to put in the comments, you know, help me out, tell me maybe I did something wrong, but there's no way that this carb could be rotated in any other direction because it simply will not fit in this location. Nitro World Order.
Nitro World Order.